Some of the best musical artists are called great at what they do for a myriad of reasons. They have phenomenal pen game, they're the voice of a generation, or they have moves so electrifying you would swear that they weren't even human. But truthfully, all of those things wouldn't mean much without one specific thing, and that's connection. Without that artist's connection with the people, their status, title, or recognition as being one of the best simply wouldn't exist, because without that connection, the people wouldn't then be open to thus receiving whatever it is that the artist has to offer. And yes, I know that of course essentially all artists have been able to do this to some extent, because having followers or supporters is pretty imperative to one's career. It's characteristically what a fan base is. But when it comes to the how in which they're connected, or for a better word, relatable,
I'm right here, you guys don't have to yell.
That is where the true differences and distinctions in taste arise. You can have artists that are relatable because of their down-to-earthness, sex appeal, their knowledge or faith.
We love you, God! Jesus Christ!
When it comes to something, say, a bit more broad, like the human experience, there aren't many artists, at least who I've come across, that I feel like do a better job at capturing specific facets of it better than Rex Orange County. Rex Orange County, born Alex O'Connor, is now a 22-year-old musician who you may know from being featured on songs with Tyler, the Creator.
I just woke up and I don't know what's going on. This is tight.
Now, you may or may not know this, but Rex, up until this point, has actually created for himself a 3-album discography that will be the basis for this video and ones to come. Now, one thing that becomes very apparent when listening to Rex's music is that he has feelings. Not only does he have feelings, but he also has thoughts, and lots of them. Thoughts that tend to rest on 3 core themes: life, identity, and love. And it's through the years, with his music, that Rex has been able to so artistically convey the raw truths of these themes that so many of us know but may be too scared to face, in turn humanizing even the darkest of thoughts and or people. Now, when we first meet Rex, we meet a depressive, anxious, existential, angsty, teenage boy who's on a roller coaster of emotion when it comes to the major themes of life, identity, and love. I mean, the title alone, Because You'll Never Be Free, says it all. What ends up setting this album apart from the others is the immaturity that you see in Rex, which for all intents and purposes is like a best friend to him, acting as a kind of guide, comfort, crutch, and even savior at times. And I say that not in judgment, but in conforming to the idea that in the end it all really does make sense, seeing as though Rex himself was only 16 or 17 years old at the time while making the album. All of those adjectives are pretty much right on brand for someone going through that kind of hormonal life experience. And so I do see this album as being a great representation of what it means to be a teenager. However, the extent or levels that we see Rex go to at times is something to be noted as a sign of there perhaps being more to how he feels than just being a teenager. Now, in terms of the how exactly is Rex so relatable, at 16, 17 years old, Rex's view on life is a pretty pessimistic one. When listening to the album, one gets the feeling that life is something that's happening to Rex without any of his say. Rex is in the passenger seat, and whatever situation that's affecting him has the wheel. Eventually, if one stays in that position long enough, they'll eventually arrive at the what's the point part of life, and that's pretty much where we meet Rex. In one of the first songs on the album, entitled Belly, Rex's lack of joy for life is very apparent from the get-go. The song itself feels more like a stream of consciousness where Rex is again in the passenger seat with his mind being the driver. He starts the song off by singing,
"Grass stains all on my blue jeans. They used to be new jeans, but now they're all fucked."
And the entire song follows this pattern where the verse starts with something that is and then ends with Rex's own blunt, abrupt cynicism. And it's that unwavering perspective that essentially becomes the basis in which Rex builds the album off of. Then there's a song like Japan, where in the very first verse, the imagery that he gives of things that are supposed to be comfortable feel like anything but, which goes to show just how much even the more simpler parts of life are still in some way distressing for Rex.
With the sheets like waves and brain tied down to a stone cold pillow, but the pillow just feels like gray cement.
Or look at a song like Green Eyes, where it's not necessarily the lyrics or imagery that drives the point home, but more so the presentation of the song itself, with the marching drum beats that sound like he's going to war, and the lifeless monotone voice which tells us that he doesn't want to.
Nah, I don't have any change on me, man, I'm sorry. Could have made a contribution.
Which all then create this mental picture where it looks like Rex is acting and or reacting to life the same way in which he views life acting and or reacting toward him, which is very cold and callous. He's tired of the ups and downs and things not going his way. He's tired of constantly overthinking, and more than anything, he's also tired of not knowing or really understanding who he is and why he's here. It's Rex's identity as a depressed, anxious loner, or perceived lack thereof, that has led to the reality in which he currently finds himself in. Rex has no idea who he is. If he shows any kind of awareness, 9 times out of 10, it comes from what someone else has said to him. If there is any talk of his identity from Rex himself, it usually in some way reverts back to the main question of,
who am I?
Now, after learning about his complicated love life and unsuccessful attempt at trying to understand who he is, it's safe to assume that whatever answer he came up with wasn't enough, because in the very next song on the album, entitled Paradise, he is then contemplating a reality that he no longer exists in, or that he no longer wants to exist in.
Don't miss me when I'm dead.
Because it's in his current reality where he deals with the nagging voice inside of his head,
I can't hear my voice, thank God. Why, thank God?
which he ironically hates the sound of,
'Cause I hate the sound of my own voice.
and where he also has trouble maintaining relationships
I would like to be more sociable than I am.
I do my best to keep it with my people, but what the fuck does that even mean?
because he just doesn't seem to fit in.
See, the reason why they did not understand you in school, same reason why you tell yourself you're not cool.
Amongst a myriad of other things. In another song, Portrait of Ned, Rex tells us that he doesn't even know where home is.
Where is home? Streets are home. I walk them time again, and each time I am alone.
The very place where you're supposed to have that foundation and stability to be able to be yourself and to have some place that you can call your own, Rex doesn't even know how to find. For Rex, this reality is nothing short of a nuisance. And if this was really his life experience while working on the album, then I don't blame him for feeling like he needs saving even from himself.
I am just a basket case until I'm able to see your face. You save me from myself.
But what is on the more unfortunate side is how he seems to not only blame love for a lot of his problems, but also looks to it as his savior. This then leads us to the third and final experience, love. Rex's relationship with love is a contentious one, to say the least. It's love that binds, blinds, depresses him, throws him off, takes from him, doesn't give back, and makes him question everything. But in his own twist of ironic doing, he also makes it his liberator, taking on the mentality that if it would just go right, if the girl would just see, understand, and then act accordingly, everything, including him, would be okay. On the self-entitled opening track of the album, Rex sings about this girl who we can assume was in some form of a relationship with him at some point.
How you been?
We find out that she's now out living her life, doing what she feels is best for her.
I heard you've been away to discover yourself or something.
And instead of being at the very least supportive of her and her decision, he essentially gaslights her and says, okay, cool, but what about me and my heart?
Or was it worth it when you stole his heart? Never returned it, but he earned shit for you from the start.
Completely ignoring the fact that the girl still has her own life to live. Then there's a song literally called A Song About Being Sad, where, you guessed it, it's Rex literally being sad and also a bit salty because his love was unrequited.
Desperately wanting you to be interested too. It's not clear what I need yet, but it's clear it's not you.
Then Sir circling back to the fact that Rex is tired and numb, not just from love, but from everything that he's experiencing, instead of facing that fact, he instead tries to mask it as the lie that we all like to tell ourselves, which is that we don't care.
You think I'm about to tell you that I love you, but I really fucking don't.
When in reality, we all know that to not be true, because in the very next song, entitled No Love, Rex is practically begging to know true love.
I just wanna know love, mother, won't you tell me, when will I know love? Baby, please forgive me, not able to show love.
Besides that fact, throughout the rest of the songs on the album, it's pretty clear that through the pain, he still wants the girl. Because to Rex, having the girl or simply knowing love will save him, as we already heard in the song Corduroy Dreams.
You saved me from my sin.
Or in the song Belly, where Rex uses the song to focus mainly on her flaws in an attempt to discourage all feelings that he has for her.
I heard she hates her dad, even though we bought her that Mercedes-Benz. She likes to stay alone and do drugs with her friends. She needs to know herself before she falls in love again.
That contrast in his songs is a signature to the Rex sound, and not just this one specific album. But what is specific to this particular album is the need to vent through this awkward, confusing, self-deprecating time that are one's teen years. And once we move to his next album, Apricot Princess, just a few short years later, what we get is the confirmation that perhaps everything that's said in Because You'll Never Be Free can't actually just be chalked up to teenaged hormones, and that there is likely something more to his existential dread, overthinking, emotions, etc.